Hey, welcome back to the stash. Daredevil, the man without fear, one of Marvel's greatest characters of all time. If I'm being honest, I only started reading his comics this year. However, I made it my personal goal to read every single issue, and as I'm almost at the end of this absolutely insane journey, I find myself with an overwhelming sense of passion for this guardian devil. Beforehand, I had obviously seen the show multiple times and it rightfully deserves its praises, which is why I'll most likely make an entirely separate video for when the time comes. But my god, the comics are just so unbelievably good. Now of course he's had his average errors like the Silver Age or even majority of the Bronze Age before Frank Miller joined the title, and for a while it felt like the old Hornhead was suffering from a form of identity crisis. The writers all tried to make him Spider-Man. Hell, he was even advertised as a Spider-Man clone right at the very start. The Silver Age was an interesting time for Matt. He was generally happy for most of the stories and more of a swashbuckling protector of Hell's Kitchen as opposed to the more somber guardian devil we know today. And the man we have to thank for that change is none other than Frank Miller for when he took over. He brought his own twist to the comic, and Daredevil, he simply never looked back. The original run by Frank Miller and even his Born Again story mean the world to me, for reading them was an experience I'll never forget. The drama, the intensity, the brutality, everything within that book just worked, and just when Daredevil seemed to be losing his way again, Kevin Smith brought him back to his roots in the 90s with a story that felt both fresh and true to the character's core. Then from Smith's run, I loved the stories Bendis would later write. Charles Soule had some great moments, but of course, I just cannot mention the Chip Zdarsky run. Now, as of making this video, I'm only about halfway through, but man, it's probably my favorite modern comic ever. But before we properly dive in, I just want to take a quick moment to say that your support here at The Stash truly does mean the world to me. If you're a Daredevil fan or just love comic content in general, consider sticking around and hitting that subscribe button. Now with that out the way, let's jump in and explore why this character and his comics mean so much to me. One of the most compelling aspects of Daredevil's world is his relationship with Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. Literally any time the pair are in the same comic, I'm immediately hooked within the story because I truly believe that there's honestly no better rivalry within Marvel. Their dynamic is one of the most intricate and enthralling in all of comics. On the surface level, Daredevil and Kingpin might seem like simple enemies, the vigilante versus the crime lord if you will. But what makes their relationship so captivating is how much it's built on more than just their rivalry. It's rooted in shared humanity, complex motivations, and the fine line between hero and villain. Kingpin, while a ruthless criminal mastermind, is far from a one-dimensional villain. He believes in order, in control, and in reshaping Hell's Kitchen to his vision. In a twisted way, Fisk sees himself as a protector, a force of stability even. His methods, though monstrous and simply evil, come from a place of pride in what he's built. That makes him in some ways a mirror to Matt Murdock, two men driven by a need to protect, but with completely opposing ideas on how to do so. What's so fascinating is that Daredevil doesn't just oppose Fisk out of a personal vendetta. He sees Kingpin as a symbol of everything that's wrong with the system. Fisk represents the corrupting influence of power, but also the seductive nature of it. For Matt, taking down Fisk isn't just about stopping crime, it's about saving the soul of his city, and yet there's a deep tragedy in this relationship because both men understand on some level that they're two sides of the same coin. They are both willing to make extreme sacrifices for their cause, the difference being that Matt fights for justice while Fisk fights for domination. Their battles are never just physical, it's the psychological and philosophical warfare that really makes this dynamic thrilling to read. Now, one of the most iconic and visceral moments in their rivalry has got to be during one of my favorite comic books ever made, Daredevil Born Again, where the Kingpin learns Matt's secret identity. This is a pivotal moment in their story because it promptly reveals Kingpin's personal vendetta against Daredevil. Fisk doesn't just want to destroy Daredevil's life, he wants to destroy Matt Murdock, the man behind the mask, and for Matt, it's devastating to see everything he's built, his career, his reputation, his life, all of it fall apart. This brutal descent into darkness is beautifully illustrated and portrayed in the story, highlighting how deep their rivalry goes. Reading that for the first time is something I'll never forget. It's a story for the ages and one that is a must-read for any fan of comics. But it's not just about the physical confrontations, there's a constant psychological push and pull between them. Take for example when Fisk became mayor of New York City, which allowed him to manipulate people and events behind the scenes, making Matt's life even harder. Now what I find so striking about these moments is that it shows that both Daredevil and Kingpin are at their best when they're outwitting each other in the shadows. For when Matt faces off against Fisk, he's not just battling a criminal, he's battling the very system that lets men like Fisk rise to power. I also love that in a way, Fisk's presence alone in Matt's life forces him to question his own role as a hero. It's a constant tug of war, with neither side willing to give an inch, and that for me is what makes their relationship just so intoxicating. It's the push and pull of ideals, of power, of control, and of what it truly means to win. One of the most powerful aspects of Daredevil's story is his relationship with his best friend and law partner, Foggy Nelson. Foggy is more than just a supporting character. He's the emotional anchor that keeps Matt grounded in a world that often seems too dark and chaotic to bear. And the things that make their friendship so incredible is its depth, loyalty, and authenticity. While Daredevil's story is often filled with brutal fights, moral dilemmas, and existential struggles, it's the quiet moments between Matt and Foggy that remind us of the human side of the character, and I just love it to bits. It's easily one of my favorite parts of the entire comic book. From day one, Foggy has been there for Matt, standing by his side even when he doesn't know the full extent of what Matt is going through as Daredevil. Foggy's loyalty is unshakable, and it's the loyalty that forms the backbone of their friendship. Even when Foggy could be really pissed off at Matt, when he's had enough, they always manage to find a way because at the end of the day, they have an unbreakable bond. There's just so much about it that is just amazing. I find it almost inspiring even that two friends can go through thick and thin and always manage to come out the other side stronger than ever. It's an aspect of the book that you can tell I always view with such high praise simply because of the amount of effort and love each writer has put in for them. Now, one of the most moving arcs in their relationship is when Foggy Nelson is diagnosed with cancer. There were some moments that generally made me tear up, from Matt putting up with the intense effects the chemotherapy was having on his enhanced senses to Foggy viewing Matt as his hero, his beacon of hope to beat his cancer. Everything about it was it was perfect. It was easily my favorite example of why these two lawyers are the bestest friends on earth. During that story, it's here that Matt's role as a friend is brought into sharp focus. Matt, while dealing with his own struggles as Daredevil, refuses to let his friend face this challenge alone. He uses his resources as a lawyer, working tirelessly to get Foggy the best treatment possible. This storyline isn't just about Matt using his abilities as Daredevil. It's about the quiet, everyday heroism that comes from being a good friend. The emotional weight of this arc is immense. While Matt fights criminals on the streets of Hell's Kitchen, his personal battle is to save his friend's life, and in doing so, he grapples with the reality that even his extraordinary abilities can't protect those he loves from the cruelties of the world. The way Foggy handles his diagnosis, grappling with his own fear and uncertainty, and the way Matt stands by him shows the strength of their bond, and it's a testament to the fact that Daredevil's greatest strength isn't his acrobatic feats or his super senses, it's his relationship with the people who truly matter. Foggy's unwavering belief in Matt, even when Matt doubts himself, is the true moral center of the Daredevil saga. It's easy to forget that Daredevil is, at his core, just a man, but Foggy's friendship constantly reminds us that Matt's humanity is what makes him so relatable and grounded, despite all the pain and suffering he has to go through. But what I love the most about Matt and Foggy's friendship is how real it feels. It's not some idolized perfect bond, it's messy, flawed, and built on mutual respect and love. It's a reminder that no matter how dark things get, having someone who truly believes in you can make all the difference. Even when Matt's identity is threatened, when it's even revealed, when his personal life crumbles, and when everything seems to be falling apart, Foggy is there, offering support, a listening ear, and the occasional dose of much-needed humor. For me, their friendship is something I look up to. I can't help but think about how lucky Matt is to have someone like Foggy by his side, someone who will stick with him no matter how tough the road gets. It made me reflect on the importance of my own friendships, the ones that helped me through my own struggles. Matt and Foggy remind me that true strength doesn't come from fighting alone. It's the people who support us, who challenge us and help us grow, that make us who we are. Their friendship isn't just a highlight in the story of Daredevil, it's a powerful reminder of the kind of friendships we should all strive for. Ones that are deep, unwavering, and filled with unconditional love and support. And for that reason, I'll always have a special place in my heart for Matt and Foggy. Their bond is one of the most beautiful parts of the Daredevil mythos, and it's one of the reasons why this comic and this character, including those around him, means so much to me. Now, we've talked about Kingpin earlier, but we mustn't forget Bullseye, probably one of the most craziest characters I've ever had the enjoyment of reading. This man is insane. No, he's beyond even that. You see, Kingpin and Daredevil's rivalry is next level. It's hatred like you've never seen before, but Bullseye himself would have an incredibly solid argument to be number one. These two despise each other. Hell, it's no wonder since Bullseye has managed to kill multiple girlfriends of Matt. It's almost like his sick form of pleasure. Bullseye is just one of those villains who gets under your skin. And as much as I love Daredevil, I can't deny how devastatingly effective Bullseye is as one of his greatest enemies. It's not just that anything in his hand is a deadly weapon. No, it's how personal he makes everything. For me, what makes Bullseye such a terrifying and compelling character is how he just doesn't want to hurt Daredevil physically. Similar to Kingpin, he wants to destroy him from the inside out. When Bullseye kills Karen Page, it's not just another casualty in Daredevil's war on crime, it's an emotional gut punch that resonates on a whole different level, and it's moments like that which make me realize just how far Bullseye is willing to go. He's not just trying to kill Matt, he's trying to tear apart everything Matt holds dear. His obsession with Matt's loved ones makes his actions that much more brutal and painful to watch, yet at the same time, it makes the comic so captivating to read. I'd be sat there beside myself with excitement and dread each time Bullseye was on the page because you just knew something horrible was about to happen. The way he just manages to push Daredevil over the edge is so compelling to read and really get into. I adore this one issue, Daredevil 191. It's literally just Matt sitting across from Bullseye who's stuck in a body cast because killing Elektra was enough to finally snap Daredevil. He got in his head so bad to the point where Daredevil dropped Bullseye from a high place. It could have killed him, but instead he was left paralyzed. Daredevil reduced the world's greatest assassin to nothing more than a cripple. And in this story, the tension was a real highlight for me. It was so strong, so intense that anytime I think about the comic, I can feel it once more without actually having to read it. In the issue, you've got Daredevil, a man broken by the loss of his love Elektra, sitting across Bullseye, a man in a broken body, thanks to Matt. So he goes over a child he recently met, a child that, due to this never-ending battle him and his foe have, is now broken but in the sense of more psychologically, as well as the reason he became a lawyer in the first place, all the while playing Russian roulette with Bullseye. Oh man, the pure fear in his eyes was something I'll never forget. The way that after Matt finished telling a single scene, he'd pressed the trigger, hoping for either one of them to be free from this hell they call their lives. It was just brilliant, especially the ending. The ending was just pure brilliance, for the gun was never loaded, and so Daredevil just sits there, quietly accepting that in this twisted world, him and Bullseye are forever stuck with each other. This issue and the heaps before and after it just add so much depth to these two characters. Every time Bullseye targets someone Matt cares about, I can feel the weight of it. It's a constant reminder that Matt isn't just fighting crime. He's fighting this relentless sadistic force that thrives on taking everything he loves away, and it makes me think, how much can one person take before it all becomes too much? For me, Bullseye is the perfect antagonist because he's not just a killer, he's a reflection of the darkness Matt constantly battles against, and a force that reminds me how vulnerable even the strongest hero can be. Yet, there's one more thing within Matt's life that always seems to make him that little more sensitive, that little more vulnerable. That thing being his lovers over the years. For someone who adores when comics explore romance and all that comes with love, I find Matt Murdock's relationships to be among the most compelling parts of his character, as well as comics as a whole. His love life isn't just a side plot, it's a window into his vulnerability, his humanity even, and the internal battle between his heroic identity and the longing for connection. Over the years, the two most significant women in his life have got to be Karen Page and Elektra Natchios. Each of them offers an incredibly unique perspective on Matt's emotional landscape. There's such pivotal keys for us, the reader, to understand why this hero of Hell's Kitchen, constantly fighting for justice, is so deeply flawed and yet so deeply human. Karen Page represents the love that could have been, a connection that feels pure yet is constantly tested by Matt's double life. She sees the good in him, the hero behind the mask, but sometimes the distance created by Matt's secrets can come between them. Their romance is like a bittersweet symphony. It's filled with moments of passion, tenderness, and heartbreak. The tragedy of their love is not just the danger Matt's world poses, but his own internal conflict. He wants to love Karen freely, but his identity as Daredevil makes that nearly impossible. What's compelling about their relationship is that despite the betrayals, the lies, and the distance, Karen's love never fully fades. She's always caught in the push and pull of loving someone who is both her greatest joy and at the same time, oddly, her greatest sorrow. Now, as a fan of comic romance, it's this kind of love, the kind where both characters are bound to each other in ways that they can't even fully understand, that makes their story so heart-wrenching yet at the same time, so beautiful to read. But you just cannot talk about Matt and Karen and not say a thing about possibly their most toughest test in Daredevil Born Again. Now, as I've said many times already, Born Again is easily one of my most favorite Daredevil stories ever, and a major reason as to why is because of the way it illustrates Karen's fall and how deeply it ties into Matt's own journey. To see Karen, this woman who once held Matt's heart, spiral into addiction and despair, all because of her failed attempt as a movie star, resulting in Matt's secret identity being exposed, is a painful but incredibly powerful moment in their love story. It's raw and tragic, but it also paints such a human portrait of someone who has lost everything and is searching for a way back. When I was first reading through the comics, I was rocked to my core when we first see Karen return in that downright depressing splash page. It was tragic to see her hit rock bottom, yet there's something undeniably beautiful in the way she finds the strength to fight her way back to what made herself Karen Page. What strikes me is that despite her fall, she and Matt never truly gave up on one another, even though she was the one who set the chain of events in motion. The way they reconnect, not just as lovers, but as two people who have been through the deepest of losses and somehow managed to come out the other side, it just makes their reunion feel earned. For it's not just a love story, it's a redemption story, one of forgiveness, second chances, and most importantly, one of healing, and I can't help but be moved by how Karen and Matt's bond through all the darkness and pain finds a way to rekindle. But the thing that cuts me the deepest, and I know that I'm not alone in this, is the way it all ends for Karen. Now, during the Kevin Smith run, we have the death of Karen Page. When she dies, it feels like God has snatched away everything Matt has ever loved, seeing him lose her again, but this time for good. It just hit different. I can't even put into words how it felt to read those final moments, as well as to read the aftermath of her passing. To see Matt once again become a broken man. To know that the woman Matt loved, the woman who saw him for all his flaws and still accepted him, was gone forever. That's not just the end of Karen, it's the end of a dream that Matt could never fully reach. There's something so deeply tragic about that kind of loss. It's not just the death of Karen Page, it's the death of the love Matt Murdock, a man who lives in constant darkness, will never be able to fully embrace. A love that once brought much needed light to his love. And the way that Matt responded to her death, it's so raw, it's so real. And I feel like that's what got to me the most. That quiet personal mourning, the grief that isn't loud but is felt so deeply that you can almost hear it. The reminiscing on memories that now feel a lifetime away. It's like a part of Matt himself died alongside with Karen. It's the loss of the love he fought so hard for, and it's devastating to watch him grapple with it, knowing that he'll never have the chance to make it right. Then there's Elektra, who is not just a love interest, but a mirror to Matt's darker side. Elektra is everything Matt is and isn't, strong, unpredictable, and driven by a fierce sense of justice, but in ways that often veer into the morally ambiguous. Their relationship is chaotic, passionate, and charged with danger. It's impossible to ignore the intensity between them, as if their fates are tied to each other no matter what. With Elektra, Matt just doesn't find love. He finds someone who challenges him, who accepts his darkness and at times shares in it. They're two sides of the same coin, both tortured souls seeking redemption and yet unable to escape that very darkness they're drawn to. And as I went through their journey, it's just impossible not to be captivated by their tragic poetry of their bond. Their love isn't just a romance, it's an all-consuming force that sometimes seems as destructive as it is beautiful. But what fascinates me the most about Matt's relationships with Karen and Elektra is how they reveal his vulnerability. While he's often portrayed as a man of incredible resilience driven by his mission and moral code, these relationships show us the cracks in that armor. Matt is, at his core, someone who longs for connection, someone who craves the kind of love that can ground him amidst the chaos of his life. It's something that resonates with me. It really leaps out and grabs my attention because in many ways, I'm like Matt in that sense. I crave that feeling, and to see him go through all that he does helped me a lot as a form of comfort. But both women, Karen and Elektra, represent different sides of his heart, showing us a man who is torn between his desires for normalcy and his inescapable destiny as Daredevil. Ultimately, it's these relationships that make Matt Murdock not just a hero, but a deeply relatable character. In his love life, we see a man wrestling with his own emotional limits, constantly balancing the weight of his responsibilities with the need for love and intimacy. And as someone who's always appreciated romance within comics, I find that these connections, sometimes beautiful and often tragic, add a layer of depth to Matt's character that is essential to his journey. His love stories are not just side plots, they are integral to understanding who Matt Murdock truly is. A hero who is struggling not just against crime, but against the emotional complexities that come with being a man. And through these relationships, Daredevil's story becomes more than just a tale of battles and justice. It's a profound exploration of identity and vulnerability, reminding us that even the most resilient heroes are defined and sometimes undone by the people they love. Something I've always found interesting about this character is the way that Matt Murdock and Daredevil, the lawyer and vigilante, are the perfect balance to make him relatable and so capturing on both a human and heroic level. Now, Matt Murdock is a very complicated man. He's definitely no saint, and I feel like that aspect of the character, that rawness about him, is what makes Daredevil so capturing. In terms of Marvel characters as a whole, he's probably their most flawed in the sense of just how human he really is, and in many ways, that's his greatest strength. For me, for you, for anyone, Matt Murdock is someone we can all relate to because similarly to Spider-Man, he's just like us. He's the everyman. He's got a job, he pays his taxes, he's got a few X's to his name. Matt Murdock is someone we can all see ourselves in. It's a core aspect of his being. One of the things that truly sets Daredevil apart from the other superheroes is how deeply human he is. He's not just a vigilante with super senses or a lawyer with a moral compass. Matt Murdock embodies the complexities of being imperfect. He is defined not by his powers, but by his flaws and the choices he makes despite those flaws. What makes him so relatable is how those flaws don't just make him more human, they make him more heroic. Unlike many Marvel characters who may be depicted as practically invincible, Matt's greatest strength lies in his vulnerability and his ability to rise despite it all. Consider his blindness. It's not just a challenge he must overcome. It's a part of what gives him an extraordinary sense of empathy and understanding for the people around him. His disability forces him to pay attention in ways most others don't. When Daredevil fights his enemies, it's not just about the physical battle. He often has to understand the emotional or moral landscape of the situation, tapping into the pain and suffering of those around him. This deep connection to others despite his personal struggles is a part of what makes him a compelling hero. He doesn't just fight criminals because he's capable of doing so, he does it because he understands the consequences of crime on a personal level. What makes Matt's journey even more powerful is how his imperfections are reflected in his relationships, whether it's with his friends, family, or love interests. Daredevil's vulnerability always shines through. He is a man trying to balance the weight of his dual life while dealing with the emotional fallout of his decisions all the time. He doesn't always get it right, of course, and he often struggles with guilt, doubt, and a sense of failure. But rather than being defeated by these struggles, he continues to move forward and is always striving to be better. Matt's flaws, his doubts, his emotional baggage, his moments of weakness are what make him so relatable to me. But it's how he chooses to deal with these flaws, the strength he finds in his own weakness, that defines him. It's not about being perfect or invincible, it's about being willing to keep fighting, even when you feel like you've lost everything. Matt Murdock shows us that the true measure of a hero isn't in never failing, but in how you get back up when you do. In a world where the idea of heroism can sometimes feel unattainable, Daredevil's very humanity is what makes him one of the most captivating and inspiring heroes Marvel has to offer. I need Daredevil. Daredevil is more than just a comic book character. He's an inspiration. He's someone I strive to be like. Just like Spidey, except they both have their own unique qualities. Now, I'm a Catholic, and I don't openly talk about religion or any of the sort on my channel, but when talking about one like Matt Murdock, it's pretty impossible not to. But the point is, I'm not the best Catholic. I wouldn't even say I'm a good one most of the time. I do try. However, I struggle a lot in my life with my faith. And when I look to Matt Murdock, I see a character whose journey with faith mirrors my own struggles. It's not always easy, and it's certainly not straightforward, but it resonates with me in a way few other characters really do. Now, when I think about how I relate to Matt Murdock on a deeper, more personal level, I find myself drawn to the way his faith constantly challenges him. As a Catholic, Matt's journey of grappling with his beliefs is something that connects with me in ways that I can't fully describe. Like I said before, I'm not the best Catholic. I struggle with my faith at times, and I don't often talk about religion openly, but there's something incredibly powerful in how Matt embodies that internal conflict. His battle isn't just about saving Hell's Kitchen or fighting crime. It's about understanding and reconciling his faith in God, especially when the world around him seems to challenge that very faith. Matt's religion isn't always a straightforward source of strength. He has his moments of deep doubt. He's questioning his purpose, his decisions, and the very existence of a higher power in the face of so much suffering and injustice. These moments of crisis they feel incredibly real to me. There are times when I struggle with my own faith, questioning whether my beliefs are truly helping me or if I'm doing enough. I often find myself lost, questioning what I'm supposed to do or how I'm supposed to be, but watching Matt Murdock wrestle with these same questions gives me a great sense of comfort. I see that it's okay to struggle, that it's normal to feel lost, but what matters is how you pick yourself back up. Just like Daredevil, Matt's journey with faith is far from easy, and in many ways, it mirrors my own struggles. In some of Daredevil's most impactful stories like Born Again or Guardian Devil, Matt faces moments where he feels abandoned by God or forsaken by his faith. But in the end, he always manages to find his way back, not through easy answers or miraculous resolutions, but through perseverance, introspection, and a willingness to keep fighting despite the doubts. That's something that speaks to me. The idea that faith isn't about having everything figured out, but about continuing the fight even when it feels impossible. Matt doesn't always feel like a saint, and he knows he's not perfect, but that's what makes him so relatable. That's what makes him so real. And his journey of constantly questioning, doubting, and ultimately coming back to his faith reminds me that I'm not alone in my hardships. It's a reminder that we all go through moments of doubt, and that doesn't mean our faith is weak. It means we're human. The grace in Matt's character, the way he learns to embrace his faith despite the pain and loss, is what gives me a form of solace. It shows me that it's possible to reconcile the struggles within yourself and still move forward, to keep fighting for what you believe in, no matter how tough the road may seem. I look at these classic stories, from all of Frank Miller's writing to Guardian Devil to Last Rites, each one pushing Matt beyond his limits in some way, shape, or form. Hell, some literally take everything he has away from him. And you know what he does? Every single time, he picks himself up and goes again. The man never quits, no matter what life's thrown in his way. No matter how God has written his story or the obstacles he may give him along the journey, he's a hero through and through. He may lose, he may make many mistakes even, but he puts on that mask and costume every single time for one reason: to see people be brought to justice, to uphold in what he believes in. And so, in a world full of superheroes who may seem invincible, Matt Murdock reminds us that true strength lies in picking yourself up after every fall. That is why, no matter what, I'll always love Daredevil, the man without fear.
I'm Daredevil. Not even God can stop that now.